Fourth quarter call. What's going on, ladies and gents? Thank you for tuning in again tonight and joining us. We always appreciate when you take time out of your day, night, just to tune in, watch us live, watch us in the recording. We really, really appreciate all the discussion and tuning in. So thank you. As always, we got our host. We're waiting for Jason. I don't know where that man is, but hey, we got the faithful here. So that's
another fun game about random Colts players.
Joining us tonight, we got my man Timothy representing the Star as always. We got the objectively biased one, Mr. Steven Foggs. We got Mr. 313 Detroit Kyle in the house.
I hate you all.
And we have Steeler Nation, Mr. Brian.
What's going on, guys?
So to start off the night, folks, we got a very interesting topic. I'm going to try to just sum this up real quick so the boys can get into it. Basically, we're going to start off with this John Elway. This is a very interesting topic. Is John Elway overrated? Now, this spiked from a Reddit post over from, I believe, the user Tough Scene over on Reddit. So all credit goes to this guy. He's the one that produced most of this data right here. So not to just overwhelm you guys with all this data on the screen. You could pause the screen, whatever you need. But this is really just summarizing John Elway's first 10 seasons. It's actually compiling and showing him based on the era of quarterbacks that he played with, along people like Marino, Metanik, Kelly, Lomax, Krieg, Esias, and Koza, etc. So it shows that John Elway's first 10 seasons averaged about a 54.7 completion percentage. He had about 158 touchdowns, 157 intos, gives him about a 73.8 rating. So there's 15 QBs from 83 to 92. These were the first 10 years for Elway. And he ranks about 14 out of 15 if you go by passer rating. So the funniest thing, based on this user, is he says the undrafted nobody Dave Krieg was better than John Elway for 10 years. And he compared him in this first screenshot on the left side with John Elway compared to Dave Krieg. Then you come over and he does an even further analysis showing what John Elway did for the 10 years, also compared in that same span from 93 to 98 with the guys when John Elway was proven, I guess you could say, to open it up more under Dan Reeves and, was allowed to just start hucking and chucking a la Favre. So, boys, we've been talking about this for a bit off of the wall, or off of the video, I should say, more on the wall and in Messenger and off live. So I'm going to let you guys go at it. Start the quarrel. What do you guys feel? Is John Elway overrated? Go at it.
So I'm going to start this off by saying I think all of you as debaters are overrated, especially Tim, of course. But look,
it kind of depends on who's rating us, but I
get that. But I still want to emphasize I hate you all. No, but in all seriousness, look, this is a lot of numbers and a lot of good statistical climbing. However, if anyone is taking statistics course in college, you understand that you can manipulate statistics to paint whatever picture you want to paint. Hell, I do that on a daily basis. So with that said, look, I think we're conflating. I think we often conflate as football fans statistical dominance or statistical goodness and tangible, right? We always look at John Elway, multiple Super Bowl winners. Look, there aren't many quarterbacks in the NFL who have multiple Super Bowls. Doofy ass Eli Manning has 2, right?
You're watching now.
Well, I'm sorry, but he does look kind of goofy. But I just don't get the one-to-one comparison between the quarterbacks in different eras and also operating in different offensive systems, right? John Elway, right? In his, I guess, dominant years as that Super Bowl, as a Super Bowl winning quarterback, what else did he have on that team? Anyone?
On John Elway, offensively?
Yeah. Or on
we talked about this yesterday. He didn't have much. Honestly, he did not have much on his football team offensively. I know the numbers Josh put them up offensively. They were ranked in the top 10, top 5 a few times. But if you talk about player-wise, not much. They did not have a lot offensively. I'm pretty positive he did not have a lot. If John Elway was the reason the Broncos were that team, were offensively even moving the football at one point. So,
I'm gonna get those offensive defensive numbers real quick.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the The only point I'm making is that you got to be real careful when making these comparisons based off things like quarterback rating, QBR, et cetera, across the eras. I'll bring up this point, Tim, because we did it before the show. Tim, who is the greatest quarterback in Cowboys history?
To me, Roger Staubach.
So and listen, most people would say that, right? Most people would say Roger Staubach. Some would even say Troy Aikman. Why does no one say Tony Romo? Is my question. He's one of the most statistically, gifted quarterbacks of all time for all teams, and that's why I'm very careful as to making this comparison across generations. That's my word there. Hopefully, all of you keep that same energy as you talk, or I will call you out because I hate you all.
So I mean, I'll go next real quick. I mean, I'm a little confused about what. I mean, I know the question is John Elway is overrated, but from what I remember yesterday, when Josh initially posted this, it was more so about I think they said he was the Eli Manning of his generation or his era, which I completely disagree with because I think everybody would agree with that. I think most people agree that John Elway was a better quarterback, just overall quarterback, gifted wise, than Eli Manning. I think a lot of people would agree. If you don't agree, that's okay. So that's where I didn't like that. And then people try to bring up statistical analysis. They try to bring up the quantitative data about why Eli Manning and John Elway are so, or similar. But again, just like Kyle alluded to, it's very difficult to compare eras, especially when the rule changes that have occurred over the last decade that have been favorable to passing, that have been favorable to offense. That's just what it is. And then I remember yesterday off air, Josh brought up Andy Dalton and how his numbers were compared to John Elway, and it's the same exact thing. I mean, like, I'm not about to sit here and say that Andy Dalton and John Elway are equals just based off the numbers, because Andy Dalton plays in an era where you can sit in the pocket all day, not worry about getting hit. He plays in an era where receivers just kind of run free, and that's going to inflate their numbers. He plays in an era where you can't even touch the quarterback anymore. Now, it's just those things just kind of matter. But to bring it back to John Elway, the reason why I don't think he's overrated is kind of for these reasons. John Elway, back in the 80s and 90s, I understand his based off his numbers-wise, I get that they're not the greatest. But again, era has to be considered. Okay, John Elway, and despite thinking the stat is a little overrated, I believe, unless if it's been passed, the most fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives of all time. Okay, that's one. And John Elway was one of the main reasons why that offense was even up and running in the early 80s, late 80s and 90s, going up until the late 90s. Until obviously he got Charles Davis in 97, 98 and won the Super Bowl. When Davis was drafted in 95, but he won the Super Bowl in 97, 98. John Elway, coming out of Stanford, was one of the most sought out quarterback prospects of all time. This guy was an amazing prospect, and he proved it, obviously, making the Hall of Fame, won an MVP in 1987, I believe. Okay, went to 9 Pro Bowls, etc. I mean, he had a great career. So obviously, people who were watching him back then, despite his numbers, thought this guy was pretty damn good. So there's got to be a reason why John Elway was coming up with all these accolades, even despite being in you could pretty much argue it was a golden age of quarterbacks. I mean, you had Montana, you had Marino, you had Elway, you had Jim Kelly, you had Troy Aikman, you had all these guys, right, kind of surrounding Elway. Montana, I think I mentioned him. In the golden age of quarterbacks, and John Elway was looked at as one of the best in that era, despite his statistics. So saying he's overrated just based off of his numbers is just not fair, based off the era he played in. And you have to, like I told Tim doesn't like this. You really have to look at the totality in the body of his entire career, not just some numbers on the screen. And especially if you're comparing him to a guy today like Andy Dalton, Eli Manning, who plays in an era where all the rules are geared towards offense. Every single rule change has been geared towards passing. That's why you got guys like Carson Palmer, who is like statistically in like the top 7 or 8 in every category. That's like Andy Dalton. When he's done, he's gonna be there. You got guys like that. It's because it's the era that they play in. It's the era where these numbers are so inflated, and not taken away from guys like Patrick Mahomes, who's a hell of a quarterback, or even Drew Brees, who's a hell of a quarterback. Even though I think his numbers are inflated for other reasons, but we'll get into that later. But you have to take that into consideration when you're trying to cross compare these quarterbacks in different eras. So John Elway, I'm going to keep that same. John Elway is in my top 5 at quarterbacks right now as we speak. So,
and here's a little energy check right here, because John Elway, there's some narrative out there from some people. I'm not saying from everybody. There's some narrative that John Elway, he carried teams that had no business of being in the Super Bowl. Well, these are his 5 trips right here. These are the seasons. Starting his worst season, his worst defensive supporting cast was in '86. Back when he was 3 years into the league. It was number 15. But everywhere else, I apologize. He just heard Freddie Kitchens is leading the team the whole year. He's not too happy about that in Cleveland. You're going to have to settle down. All right. So you could see in '87, though, from there, it basically it just increased, and it was never out of the top 10 from there. His defensive supporting cast from 87, 89, 97, and 98, and even his offenses were in the same rank. Just wanted to put out there for a little more analysis as you guys go on. But keep going, gents. I'm liking this. A little energy spurt right here.
Before I end, let me just respond to those numbers. Defensively, I've never said John Elway didn't have a defense. He has had great defenses. I've always definitely given him or alluded to that. He's always had great defenses. Offensively, though, as you saw 97, 98, who was his running back? It was TD. So, that was the reason why the offense was so, I think it was number 1, 97, which makes sense, TD. Look, and I said this yesterday, you guys laughed at me. You laughed at me, but I'm telling you right now, that was more so Gary Kubiak's zone read defense that just really was kind of a new thing implemented into the league in the late 90s. And he kind of took it off. Obviously, when he went to Houston to be the head coach. And, that running offense that Gary Kubiak installed was built for anybody. Like I said, Orlando Scary, Mike Anderson, Quentin Griffin, all ran for 1,000 yards. Not Quentin Griffin, but all did really, really well in that offense. So, but I'll just leave it at that.
I know a quarterback is overrated, though. Andrew Luck. All right, continue.
Okay, so look, we've had this. I disagree that John Elway is a top 5 guy, Brian. I'm sorry, I don't even have him in my top 10. I think he is highly overrated, but it can't be overlooked. And that he was the main component on those teams in the late 80s that got from the offensive side of the ball. But that defense did carry him significantly so. And I didn't want to entertain Josh's Eli comparison to John Elway because I thought it was asinine first. So I'm going to sit here and say, apologize, Josh, because it really isn't asinine. And part of the reason is what Brian had just alluded to earlier in regards to the fourth quarter comeback. Many of the reasons why he had to have those fourth quarter comebacks and those game-winning drives were on him. Throwing interceptions early on in the game, putting that team behind the 8 ball, putting them in a hole early, and then having to play his way out of it, relying on his defense to give him those opportunities. Now, John Elway plays great situational football. Don't get it twisted. He's very good situationally. But when you look at the numbers and you compare him in his era, and you look at guys like Warren Moon, Dan Marino, Joe Montana, Randall Cunningham for a couple years there. Statistically speaking, he didn't live up to that first round billing, that number 1 billing. He didn't live up to the hype. For 10 years of his career, he didn't live up to the hype. Dan Marino, he knocked it out the park. I get guys like Dave Craig being statistically better, But Dave Craig was also statistically better because he had a good coach in Chuck Knox, if I'm not mistaken. And then to boot, he had Steve Largent as a wide receiver there. That was Mr. Reliable. But all in all, the body of work that John Elway has, especially for the majority of his career, is average. He was never a top 5 quarterback when you looked at it statistically. Not until the end of his career. His last 6 years, he put up astronomical numbers. He stayed over 25 touchdown passes. I think he only had 2 seasons where he went over 25 in the first 10. And this was a guy that was supposed to be some great quarterback with this big arm that is going to light it up. And he didn't do it. I'm not going to say that he's a bum in any way. But to have him to have him where I put out a poll and I'm watching people rate him over Brett Favre, it's a head scratcher to me because Brett Favre came in and when he got his opportunity, he took off. The training wheels were on John Elway's bike for about a good 8 years.
He's having a Heath Ledger moment over here. Actually, I just want to kind of add to Fox's little what he was saying about John Elway in his last 8 years. This is just to throw it up. If you want to compare eras, well, a lot of people call this guy trash. So let's look at these numbers. John Elway from 1990 to 98, and we'll compare Dalton from 2011 to 2018. Pretty fucking identical. I would pretty much say pretty fucking identical. It's pretty striking.
That's a testament to how bad.
Oh, we got an energy check.
No, we got an energy check.
Yeah, let's call this energy check real quick. Go ahead.
That's a
Who's
testament.
next?
That's a
Who's
testament
next?
to how bad.
Jason, you next, Jason?
Thank you. That's my point. If
He's struggling.
But that's when John Elway was allowed to start opening up. Really start opening up.
Wait. That's a testament to how bad Andy Dalton is. Where this league is predicated. It is built. Look, you got 5'9" Kyler Murray in the NFL, for God's sake. Okay? Like, it's built for quarterbacks. And Andy Dalton can't succeed in this league. Well, he's succeeding. He's starting for a long time. But he can't put up better numbers.
So now you're shitting on Kyler Murray? Weren't you just praising him a month ago?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying guys like Kyler Murray are able to play today because the game is predicated towards the quarterback. Kyler Murray wouldn't even sniff the field in the mid-90s. You know why? Because the rules weren't even built for Kyler. Kyler Murray wouldn't even be in the league. Quarterback in mid-90s.
Kyler Murray.
Did we see that kind of talent in the 90s?
I don't know. They didn't get a chance.
Athletes weren't bred like they were then, like they are now. If you had Josh Allen from Buffalo back in the draft from Stanford in '83, he probably would have been drafted that high and regarded that high as well.
Josh,
yep.
You gotta take this consideration. You're right. But you're right about one thing. Athletes. I'm saying athletes were bred like that back in the day. They were just playing different positions. Josh Allen wouldn't be a quarterback in the 90s. He'd probably be a tight end. Because I
can't agree with that. They were not.
Stop hating, Cal.
I'm telling you right now.
You did not have defensive ends that were 300 pounds running 4.40s at whatsoever. You might have had one person in like 20 fucking years that had that kind of talent. Now, it's like every 32 teams have a couple pair of those.
All right, come on, Tim, hop in there, Tim. They got something great, Tim.
I'll get back to Josh.
Fox, I want to hear you later though, because we kind of agreed that the physical makeup of Elway almost replicates what Josh Allen is today as a young buck. Like coming out, you could probably compare him back in '83 and 2018, both coming out at the age of 8 or 20.
From an athletical aspect, absolutely, and that it's again there's
was Josh. Right, but Josh Allen wasn't even nearly close to being the pass. Are you kidding me right now, Steven?
No, we're talking about the physical attributes. Physically,
Right.
They look the same.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But when you see when that, I'm sure scouts in the 80s and 90s, if they saw this guy Josh Allen throw a football, okay, you think they'll stick him at quarterback?
They did it now.
because that's like pretty much like one of those norms of what people want to see today, at least.
Have you ever looked at the draft, the 1979 draft, and the quarterback drafted ahead of Joe Montana?
It was Sims and Montana and then everybody else, right? Basically.
Sims went 7th in the first round.
Phil Sims of 79 is the Daniel Jones of this year, basically. Everyone's fucking up in arms about it. We'll see what happens, but it could be the perfect comparison. Nobody saw it coming.
And
I want to get back to that.
Daniel Jones wins the Super Bowl with the Giants, the only way he does that is if there's a Lawrence Taylor playing opposite that defense.
And thank God for a stupid GM taking George Roger before.
Go ahead, Tim. I'm gonna hear what you guys say, bud.
All right. Hey, Josh, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Can you please put that thunder, that energy? I just want everybody.
Energy check!
What does energy mean? Okay, energy means when you keep the same energy all the time to how you view somebody, how you make it comparisons. That's what energy check is, right? Well, I'm gonna make a couple of statements. When we talking about quarterbacks, we debate, we compare. We always ask about Super Bowls. All right, we all know that's a team thing. Completion percentage. Okay, that's one thing. Passing rating. All those numbers. Okay, we always down the quarterback if you're not at least top 5. Now, Josh was so gratefully to put up some numbers, some rankings. Okay, now John Elway never in his career led in any rankings for that. For you, when you are top 5 offense, the quarterback is really responsible for that offense. Somewhere down the line, a stat's gonna appear. They're like, oh snap, that is why. Now, in my opinion, John Elway had a very nice career was because of the head coach and Dan Reeves. I want to share something with the audience out there. Nice article I was reading. I could read though. I could read. Just let everybody know that I could read.
Hooked up phonics work for me too.
Yeah,
we weren't
through it.
You're a Cowboys fan, so we weren't.
I could read. All right.
Once I got to the ED endings,
the difference between John Elway with Dan Reeves and without him, 2 completely different players. One is a Hall of Famer, one is clearly not. So, to me, it's like we had a discussion, off discussion yesterday about the Cleveland Browns. Not trying to bring in the conversation, but they are an example. All the talent in the world, but I don't trust the head coach because he hasn't done anything. Without a good head coach, the team might not do anything. So this article basically saying that without Dan Reeves, Elway was not a good quarterback, right? He was ranked 23 during his MVP season in 1987. Neil Lomax, who nobody knows here, we was all in diapers, Pampers, shaking up the storm and our walkers, doing whatever, led the league in every passing category for a quarterback, but didn't win the MVP because his team went 6-6 in that year, which was the Arizona with the Phoenix Cardinals at that time. So basically, the way when they ranked you as MVP, it was basically how good your team looked. And we're going to give it to the most important piece of the team, which is the quarterback. And John Elway, which was led by Dan Reeves, who helped out his career. Okay? The article basically saying that without Dan Reeves, John Elway was nothing. He was ranked 23 in all his passing categories. He never once had a 60% completion percentage. Never once had a 90 quarterback rating. He managed. The defense was a top 10 defense for the past 9 years. They put him in great situations. Now, granted, he got his last 2 Super Bowls before going out on top. That was Terrell Davis. That wasn't John Elway. Yes, he had a nice historic play at the end where he ran in for that touchdown. Give him credit for that. But that was Terrell Davis. I'm not saying he's not a Hall of Famer, but what I am saying is when we come out and compare the quarterbacks in this era and we bring up these arguments about completion percentage, their passing rating, where they rank, guys like Eli Manning get shitted on 24/7. Guys like Tony Romo get shitted on 24/7. But when it comes to numbers sometimes, but we look at John Elway, well, we're going to overlook his numbers because it's the body of work. So why can't we do the same thing when talking about this quarterbacks in these eras? Why can't we look at bodies of era and stop talking about Super Bowls and everything else? You know why? Because we pick and choose who we fucking like. We pick and choose who we want to go. Now, I'm a Cowboy fan. I can't stand nobody in the NFC East, but I always say you cannot debate what hate. What Eli Manning did in the NFL compared to what John Elway did, in my opinion, it was more impressive because again, he didn't have stars. He didn't have a top 10 defense at all. I think maybe 1 season or 2. He had a good defense going into the playoff with 13 injuries, but he carried the Giants. He made the last play with the Giants. Was Hakeem Nicks? Did he have a hot rod? Did he have a Shannon Sharp on his team? Did he have a Terrell Davis on his team when he won? Who did he have? Oh, I know. He had Michael Strahan. He played 2 sides of the ball, right? He was his running back, his wide receiver, his tight end. I mean, it's ridiculous. We all look at, we pick and choose who we want, and we come out with the body of work. Overlooked his numbers, but when we get to another quarter we may not like, nah, his numbers is not that good. Eli Manning's numbers are not good. His body, it's ridiculous. So, again, John Elway, he's a Hall of Famer. Is he a top 5 wide receiver? In my opinion, no, he's not.
Quarterback, not wide receiver.
Excuse me. There you go. I'm sorry.
Of course, he's not a top 5 wide receiver. I mean, that's a lot to ask of him.
Hey, do not interrupt me.
I want an energy check.
I was quiet.
We got an energy check. We got an energy check in the building.
Energy check. Again, we are not consistent.
What about Tom Coughlin?
Can we mute this man? Mute that man right there.
What about Tom Coughlin?
Mute that man.
Tim, we need you to wrap up your thoughts so Fox makes a little quiet ass can start another quarrel over here.
Again, we do not rank these quarterbacks consistently. We always come out, we want to make excuses for one and not the other. Fogman put up a poll about who's a better quarterback, John Elway and Brett Favre. And I was so shocked to see the poll, and I guarantee you, have to do
what the poll show, Tim.
The poll basically it was 52 to 46, 52%.
Oh my God,
Brett Favre 46 per Elway, and I'm pretty sure, in no disrespect to anybody, but I say, fellas and ladies, if you was in diapers, if you was in Pampers in a walker, drinking some milk during the John Elway time, okay. I know where you went with this, but if anybody who was just sperm during the John Elway time, I hope you went to those who put on YouTube highlights and go, oh shit, no, he's the man. No, I hope you did some fucking research because there's no way Elway was better than Brett Favre. I'm sorry, I am so sorry. John Elway was a solid quarterback during the time where it was not that much of great quarterbacks at that time. But he was around a great team. Hey, a defense that was ranking a top 7.
What makes Brett Favre better than John Elway?
Well, first of all, here's the thing. You talk about the it factor. We talk about the quarterback who meant a lot to his team. Well, I think every quarterback means a lot. Brett Favre carried Green Bay the minute he was traded there from the Falcons. He carried that offense. Antonio Freeman was not a great wide receiver.
Oh, he wasn't. He had more. He had more. He led the league in reception yards in 97, 98, but he wasn't great.
Again,
Cool.
See,
you got it.
Josh, I'm an energy check now.
I think we need an energy check again, folks.
Because yesterday, when I put out Hot Rod for 2, you put out the point where it's only 2 years. That don't count. You told me that. Fogman, do not lie.
Told you what?
You came out and said 2 years. That's nothing. So now you bring up Antonio Freeman, his 2 years, but it means something to you.
No,
that's what I'm saying. Energy.
No, that's not
energy.
That's not energy. That's not energy at all.
You're not keeping consistent. Why Hot Rod didn't do good for me for his 2 years, but now all of a sudden Antonio Freeman his 2 years.
Let me explain to Tim and his point about Antonio Freeman. Antonio Freeman, right? Antonio Freeman has 4 1,000-yard seasons, 2 900-yard seasons, and 1 800-yard season. Okay, his first 3 years in the league, 95, came into the league in 95, only had 106 yards. Then he exploded for 933 second year.
Where was he ranked? Where was he ranked?
Are you gonna let me finish?
I'm sorry.
Thank you. 1,297, 1,498, 1,074.99, 912 and 2000, 1818, 2001. Antonio Freeman, and if you don't know this, Tim, I'm sorry. At one point, Antonio Freeman was one of the elite wide receivers in the league. In the league, he was. Okay, let's go look at Hot Rod stats. Since you like to bring him up, I don't know why you like this dude so much. But let's go bring up Rod Smith stats. Now, Rod Smith during his time with John Elway, because that matters, right? During his time with John Elway, okay? Rod Smith came into the league. In 95, okay? Rod Smith came into the league in 95. Had 152, 96, 237, and then he exploded for 1180 and 1222, and then John Elway retired. So what I'm saying is John Elway had only 2 years, a pretty solid Rod Smith, right? While Brett Favre had Antonio Freeman, a pretty solid Antonio Freeman for pretty much first half of his career. So you can't sit here and say that Brett Favre didn't have help. Brett Favre had always had some of the elite offensive talent on his team. Okay, there have been big names.
Who was his number 2 during the Freeman few years?
Robert Brooks. Robert Brooks was his number 2.
Robert Brooks was his best receiver. First of all, Sterling Sharp was the best receiver he's ever had, but he had a career.
Okay, you're making my point.
Career. But here's a difference.
And then like Mark.
Here's a difference. Brett Favre had rented players. He had rented players that played short career and then moved on, whether it was injuries or something. He never had a player long term. He never did. He never did have a player long term.
He didn't have Greg Jennings. He didn't have Donald Driver.
Wait.
He didn't have.
Are we saying Greg Jennings was elite?
I mentioned
Greg Jennings elite player.
He didn't have a good O-line.
Tim. Oh, see, you're nitpicking now. So Elway had no good offensive line. Wow.
My brother is the biggest Packer fan. I wish he was here right now because he would shut you up. He is the biggest Packer fan probably on this planet. He's watched more Packer games than I can ever imagine anybody watching. My brother knows Brett Favre had help. He had talent. That's why my brother, who's the biggest Packer fan, calls Brett Favre one of the most overrated players.
First of all,
quarterbacks because Brett Favre didn't get it done. Brett Favre had the it factor at points, but he would he threw so many soul-crushing interceptions, just like Eli Manning did. That's what made Brett Favre overrated. 2 times Brett Favre threw game-changing and game-losing NFC title game interceptions. He threw it in 2007 to the Giants. Josh, remember that? Josh, you remember that? 2007 NFC title game. Josh, he threw it right to a Giants DB. That pretty much sent, I believe, the Giants to Super Bowl. And then
Al Harris. think it was Allen Hurts.
Again, nobody's saying that he never had good players around him. Nobody's saying that. No. Nobody's saying that. Good players versus you call Antonio Freeman elite. His best season was between 97 and 99. That is it. Now, on top of that, Brett Favre had way more competition. You forget that the Green Bay 49, the Cowboys, were the team in the 90s. Those three teams were the best three teams in the NFC. Who Elway was battling out? Talk to me. Who Elway was battling out during AFC time?
Well, had Bernie Kosar and the Cleveland Browns. Come on.
The 1 year Bernie. Oh, thank you, Fogman. Thank you. The 1 year Bernie. Come on.
So
we're talking about the Cowboys and Green Bay. The three doesn't go through the 90s.
So basically, you're gonna blame the competition on Brett.
No, see. Here we go. Don't tell me what I'm saying.
I'm talking about
compare Brett Favre's teams compared to what Dallas had, compared to what the 49ers had, it's nowhere near the same fucking level.
You don't keep that energy consistently. That's why this is such a long debate, because nobody, you know what, including because I'm perfect, but nobody likes to keep the same energy on stuff like this.
Come on. But here's the thing, fella. We the minute we talk about a quarterback, and listen, let's keep it real. Everybody hates Eli Manning. We come out and say doofy, X, Y, and Z.
Well, he does look pretty doofy. Let's be real.
I mean, he is. But the man won it in the greatest fashion. For his playoff game was incredible. It was like a movie.
Yeah, that's fair. But it's two sides. See, here's the thing. These things are so nuanced. There's two sides of the coin.
Yep.
We talk about Eli's playoff brilliance, right? The problem with that is it was 2 playoffs out of how many in his career? What about the other? How long has he been in the league?
About 13
years.
13 years
since 2004. Yeah.
So you're talking what? What would that be? So if he came in 2004, it's 2019 now. That's 15 years.
Okay, but no, you're right. No, you're right about that. But here's the thing, though. Look at the quarterbacks now compared versus Eli Manning compared to what Elway was dealing with. Fogman put up a good point yesterday in our off discussion when he said all he had to worry about was Dan Marino, which he didn't play against Dan Marino. No, I'm just saying that the team. Remember, these guys were great quarterbacks, right? On their teams, Marino, Montana. Marino was in the AFC. Montana was in the NFC. Boomer Esiason in the AFC. Bernie Kosar, my God. And the man
played against those
horrible.
Teams.
Ranked number 23, and he still won the MVP. He won it off of politics because guess what? Your team was the best team in the NFL. Neil Lomax, who nobody knows, had better numbers in his career, and still never won a damn thing. Right. And in today's NFL, they'll give you the MVP because your numbers stand out. Even if your team don't make the playoffs, they'll give it to you.
That's not true. How many MVPs have missed the playoffs, Tim?
Steve McNair. No, when he went to
the playoffs.
Him and Manning.
Manning shared the MVP. He went to the playoffs.
They both went to the playoffs. Please name a player who's never made the playoffs but won the MVP.
All right, fair. I was wrong with that. I'm wrong.
So see,
I'm cool with that. But I admit it, I'm wrong. I admit I am wrong. But the thing is this.
This is the other knack on. This is what the Reddit user said, Tim. By the way, this was the other knack was John Elway in the Super Bowl. He was the one that compared the Reddit user that made this whole post about John Elway being overrated. He's the one that compared him to being the Eli Manning of the 80s and 90s. So this was his other little paragraph right here saying one more thing. John Elway had 3 touchdowns and 8 interceptions in his 5 Super Bowl appearances. He won his 2 rings largely because he had fucking Terrell Davis averaging 120 rushing yards per game from 97 to 98, which completely freed him up or bailed him out. And a hilarious example is in Super Bowl 32. Davis had more rushing yards, 157, than Elway had passing, 123.
Nobody's
So-
nobody's
Here's the thing.
nobody's
That's
denying
so
that Trey
disingenuous.
Davis was a great back or had a great running
But
back
Troy
at that
Aikman,
time.
but see, hold on. You know what? Mind you,
really
energy.
acknowledge
Mind you, energy. Troy Aikman is a bona fide Hall of Fame. He's a top 5. You know why? Because guess what? His body of work, regardless of what Emmett and Irving did in that defense, his body of work.
I can't see your face right now. Camera's off for whatever reason, but I honestly don't think you know what I mean when I say body of work, because you keep going back to like I don't think you understand what I mean.
Explain to me. I want to learn today, Brian. I want to learn. Teach me, brother. Teach me the body of work.
I've explained to you. You ain't trying to listen. You ain't trying to learn.
I am. Preach to me. I would throw an offering. Preach to me, my brother.
I already. No.
Tim, all I want to say is keep that same energy. You can't turn around and talk
Energy
about
check.
how Dan Reeves was as a coach and then completely omit Tom Coughlin and the coaching job he did with those Giants and just throw everything on Eli Manning.
Fuck. No. Fuck. See, here's the thing. I'm not saying what I was going with this. I was reading what the guy said compared to what y'all said last night. You guys were saying the Cleveland Browns got all the talent, but they won't look good because of the coach. So basically, you said the coach is the reason why they will go somewhere. The brother is saying, without Dan Reeves, Elway was not a good quarterback. See,
Y'all
saying. That's all I'm saying. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just did a little research, and in regards to that last stat about Elway like being horrendous that year in the Super Bowl, go back to Peyton Manning in 2006 when they won the Super Bowl. Peyton Manning
got the MVP, but
he shouldn't have gotten it. He shouldn't have gotten it. He shouldn't have gotten it.
Hey, listen,
and John Elway shouldn't have got the MVP in '87. It should have been Jerry Rice's fucking award.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that too if you want to. Where's my fucking lightning at? Give me that shit. I need that shit right now.
Energy check.
But hey, I was like, if anybody deserved that MVP in '87, it was Jerry Rice. But I don't mind giving it to John Elway based on what he did that year, based outside of his numbers. Okay. But the president is not giving it to wide receivers. I'm not even sure how many wide receivers have ever won MVP. So I'll have to look that up. But that's still not president. I'm not surprised because remember like Tom. Didn't Randy Moss have like 23 touchdowns the year that Tom Brady won the MVP with 50?
Yeah.
So they're always going to give it to the quarterback. So like this is how the award goes.
I'm glad you said that. That year, Joe Montana was throwing that ball to Jerry Rice to get the MVP, but guess what happened? They gave it to John Elway.
Yeah, but John Elway had 19 fucking like passing touchdowns or something.
Yeah,
Brady had like 50. That's of course you're gonna give it to the guy with 50. Yeah,
and
sure.
Montana was like top 5. Montana was in the top 5 range. Jerry Rice was with the MVP. Montana's throwing the Rice. Who the fuck was Elway? Did any of these receivers ever led the league one time to him get credit for it? Not his passing rating was 80 in the 80s.
I personally just don't like talking about the numbers of guys who played in the 80s and 90s because they're always going to look, because like I said yesterday off camera, subconsciously, you're going to compare it to guys today. That's just what we're going to do. I even do it sometimes. So like, that's why I just don't like bringing up Elway's number. Because if you look at the numbers of everybody in that era, Elway, Marino, Kelly, Montana, they all threw picks. All those motherfuckers threw picks. They all threw like 21, 22, 25 picks. Even Dan Marino.
Here's the thing, Brian.
Dan Marino threw how many picks? Dan Marino threw 23 picks.
And Dan Marino's overall
here's
percentage.
the thing.
Go ahead.
When you look at what they did during, and this is why I'm with you. I don't like comparing it, but I like comparing where they ranked during that time, during their era. And you take Montana, you take Cunningham, you take Warren Moon, you take Marino, all of them. Dave Craig, their touchdown to interception ratio, even though they threw interceptions, I agree with you completely. The touchdown interception ratio, if you were a great quarterback, you were like 2.5 to 1. Now, if you throw 2.5 to 1, you suck because there's it's a passing league. But of all these quarterbacks, when you looked at touchdown to interception ratio, Elway's was worse than all of theirs. He was middle of the pack when you look at touchdown interception ratio. When you talk about leading, Dan Marino was the touchdown leader 5 times. Joe Montana was the touchdown leader during the 80s, I think 2 times. One without Jerry Rice as a wide receiver. Yards leaders, Marino, he did it. Elway did it once, and he did it when he had Davis, Sharp, Smith, and McCaffrey. So during that time frame when he was there, he wasn't putting out or showing out the way people talk about him now. So the Eli Manning comparison, which again Josh brought up, and it makes me sick to my stomach because it's like, damn, this is actually pretty accurate. And that he is in ways similar to being the Eli Manning of that era. His longevity was what propelled him into having these statistics that he's got in the top 15 and in the top 10 in total numbers. It's what people hang on their hats when they talk about Eli Manning is so great. Look at his total numbers.
No, yeah, he played 200 something consecutive games, or was he close to it? He missed it 199. Yeah. So he's been pretty damn durable. Elway was pretty damn durable too. So I'm looking at his numbers right now. I'm trying to see some comparison I'm trying to find some comparisons or some differences between Elway and the guys you've mentioned in his era, right? You're right. These guys, Elway's numbers compared to Marino, compared to Montana, those are the 2 guys I'm really compared to, because Dave Craig wasn't that good. I'm looking at his numbers right now. I don't know what the hell you guys are seeing. He wasn't that good. He looked like a guy I've never seen the guy play, but he looked like a guy who only played when he was available. Didn't look like he was very available at the time based on what I'm seeing.
Nah, he was always hurt.
Right, he was always hurt, right? That's what I'm guessing. Game started, always hurt. That's one of the reasons why I can't compare him to Elway. Another thing with Dan Marino, okay? Great regular season guy, but let's be scroll down and look at his playoff numbers. Because Dan Marino was a known choke artist in the playoffs, which is the reason why he has a losing record in the playoffs at 8-10. That's one of the reasons why that's one of the reasons why you really can't propel him above Brady. You can't propel him above a guy like Montana or Manning even, because Marino was just a choke artist. After that second year when he made it to the Super Bowl, I believe, he never even got even close. He never got close again in the playoffs. So that matters too. That's the body of work, Tim. You got to take everything into consideration, not just the regular season, the playoffs as well. John Elway, great playoff performer.
I just want to
just like Steven said, he was a great situational quarterback, right? Which you have to take into consideration. It was the reason why a lot of guys loved him. Okay.
Okay. Jake the Snake was a good situation quarterback too. That was on the Cardinals.
All right, so so if you want to bring him up, Tim, let's look up Jake the Snake's numbers. Let's look up Jake Plummer's. Let's look up Jake Plummer's numbers.
No, but hold on. I want Fogman to bring up what he said about how it's not about comparing the 2 eras. It's about where was he ranked during those years.
Here is the problem with that.
But I want to hear Fogman say. I want to hear Fogman say. Fogman, can you repeat that for me?
Jake Plummer has 161 touchdowns and 161 picks. But you want to bring up Jake the Snake. That's disrespectful, Tim.
No,
that's disrespectful, dog. Like, now you're trolling, bro. Like, stop that bullshit, bro. Like, seriously, Tim.
I'm not comparing Jake Plummer to Elway. What I'm saying is, great situation quarterback. He didn't have numbers.
In the playoffs.
But Fogman, can you repeat what you said for Fogman?
Right there,
Fogman, please.
Ignore that point.
No, I want
Fogman.
No, I want Fogman to repeat that. That's it.
Kyle, what did you have to say? What did you say there was a problem?
Sky brought Jake the Snake into this conversation of great quarterbacks.
Yo, what the hell is that?
Jake Plummer. You gotta be
okay. All right. Here's the problem with comparing amongst your peers.
Unbelievable.
The baselines may be so far fucking off that you can't get a good comparison anyway.
How so?
What's my problem with that? So here's the thing. If you look right now, right? If you look right now at like the most statistically renowned passers,
right?
Most of them, the vast majority, your top 10 are coming from this era of football.
Yes.
Right.
looking back at your John Elways, your Dan Marinos, these were accomplished quarterbacks. These are Hall of Fame talents. But if you were to look at the baseline, right? Let's throw them on there. Let's look at the average.
Right.
The averages may be so far damn off that it's not a real comparison anyway. I'll give you an example. Let's say I went to some rural part of Michigan, right? And let's say I selected 10 smaller football programs, right? And then let's say I went to Detroit and selected 10 city schools. The baseline in terms of talent, ability, et cetera, is probably going to be so different that you can't really make a comparison. Like the worst team may be better by far than the entire other group. That I don't know how true this is. I'd have to look numbers wise.
Think of it this way. If you're what I'm saying is comparing the average. So what that average was during the 1980s, let's stick with touchdown to interception ratio. What a great touchdown to interception ratio was in the 80s is garbage right now.
Right.
It's completely garbage. Well, where you ranked, if you were in the top 5 in the 80s, realistically, you would translate into possibly a top 10 quarterback in this era. If you're a top 10 quarterback in this era, top 5 quarterback in this era, there's a good chance that during those eras, you may be able to statistically translate to be in a top 10 and a top 5 quarterback based on where you're ranking against the averages, the means of what the statistics are now and then.
So you said, let me ask you. So you're saying let me just make sure I got this correct. You're saying if a guy today, because of let's just take, I don't know, give me somebody, Drew Brees, okay? You're saying because statistically he's in the top 5 every year of this era, he would be that in the 80s and 90s.
He would have a very good chance at being that in the 80s and 90s.
So this is kind of brings back. I mean, you very well may be right, but it just kind of brings me back to the whole rule change and the way the game has just changed so much in the last decade, even not even the last 20, 30 years, the last decade, how the rules are just so in favor for the quarterback. It just takes away from you having to worry about getting hit anymore. Psychologically, that matters. Like you have to understand that quarterbacks in the 80s and 90s were literally getting blasted and had to get up and get to the line again and throw. These guys today are barely getting touched. Like we all saw.
And that's thanks to the people that we praise nowadays, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, hats off to them.
Those are our goats. Those are the goats.
He's the best quarterback in the NFL.
Look, you're right. But the fact is that you got guys like, that's why I brought up guys like Kyler Murray, right? Guys who he's 5'9", 5'10", 175, no, 175, 195, okay? The reason why I brought him up is because there's no way in hell, I don't care how fast Kyler Murray is, he would not be looked at as a quarterback in the 90s and 80s because this guy would probably get killed. There's no way. Can you imagine? He's what? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying. Actually, let's not even use an anomaly like Kyler Murray, right? Let's use a mobile quarterback like Tony Romo, who liked to move around the pocket, okay? Who was injury prone, right? Like the rules, even when Tony Romo was in this era, he still got hurt, and the rules were meant to protect Tony Romo. And he still got hurt. Can you imagine Tony Romo? Can you imagine Tony Romo in the 90s,
the 80s? No, I got to cancel that.
In the mid 90s, going up until now.
The rules right now, the rules right now are to protect the quarterback they want to protect. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, those guys.
You're actually right. Again, I agree with that. I agree.
No, come on, let's keep it real. Let's go back to the energy with the Cam Newton. We all had posts up there saying Cam Newton don't get the same call as everybody else. The rules are there to protect the quarterbacks the NFL wants protected. The other ones, I didn't see the hit or whatever. They have to deal with it.
It's meant to protect the goal.
Here's the thing. Tony Romo, I could say, can play in the era back then. You know why? Because he's tough. It's the mentality of the players. I would never say any player in this era here cannot play in the old era. I can never say that. But I will say, yes, of course, this era of football is to protect the players more than the old one. But here's the thing, Brian. When we talk about okay, the era of football back then, where Elway, yes, he was in a hard era of football, tough. But at the end of the day, you still had guys with a worse team than him still play the position better, like Neil Lomax, year after year after year. He didn't have a top 5 defense. He didn't have a top 5 offense. But meanwhile, he played every game, and he had better numbers than John Elway. You ranked number 23. Marino's numbers were high. Marino never had a good running game. He never had great receivers, but except we called them Dudley. You said the Jackson brothers, the Duke brothers. I forgot.
Cooper brothers.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, he had them for a minute, but he had nothing special. But meanwhile, they almost had Michael Irvin when Jimmy Johnson went to Miami. That didn't go through. But again, he was ranked 23 in the hard era of football versus guys in the top 5. So again, it's not comparing it to the new age of the new era. It's basically saying even in the hardest era of your game, you still wasn't better than the guys who had less than you, less talent around them. You was ranked 23. Ranked 23. That's all it is. Listen, Jake Plummer played for Denver 3 years. Had the same coordinator as Shannon. He was a coach at the. He was the offensive coordinator at the time with Elway. Then he became the head coach with Greasy and Plummer. He had 3 times the number, and even Jake Plummer era, they didn't change the rules. It was still pretty much the same way.
That's BS.
For 3 years, his QBR was in the 90s.
That's BS.
He had Terrell Davis for 3 more years than Elway did. 3 more years than Elway did. And his numbers were still high. Hot Rod was in his late 30s. Shannon Sharp was, I think, he was ready to go. He went to Baltimore at the time.
The league was changing. The league
changed in the year 2004.
No.
2004 was the league change.
No.
When Brady won that second Super Bowl,
the league was changing in terms of rule changes to favor the passing in about 90.
You Eagles fan, right,
97 and 98.
Frogman, you Eagles fan, right, Frog?
All right, man.
With Brian Dawkins, who was the defensive end you guys took as a free agent from the Tennessee Titans? The very first pass rusher that everybody's ever seen with a size and speed. Javon Curse, right? Let's go memory lane. Javon Curse. Then you had Peppers. You didn't have guys that size running 4.3 speed. Once you had more guys coming out with that speed, against Tom Brady getting hurt when they went in the 11-5 season with Matt Castle, they were in the Chief game. That was when the league changed. When Brady was out for the season, that's when the rules changed.
No, Tim, the league
confusing.
You're changing. I said this. I'm on record for saying this. I've said this countless times already. The league began to change once the greatest show on turf brought money to the game.
Okay. That's even better.
That's what the same.
I give it to you.
When did that? Fog. When did that start?
In
2008.
90s, right?
1998.
That was like 99. That was
99.
2000 was like the pinnacle of Warner, Paul, Holt, Bruce.
Was when the rules
Hakeem.
Not protecting. Tim, you're alluding to protecting the quarterback. That's what you're talking about with Brady and him getting hurt in 2008.
Defensive back.
No.
That was changing.
That is different.
At the turn of the century.
The rules when DBs, I believe it was back in 1998, actually, or before the greatest tour on turf, when DBs could not touch you after 5 yards. That's when things changed. Okay. That's when things started opening up more for quarterbacks. That's when things started opening up more for receivers because the league wanted more offense because offense sells.
No doubt.
That's when things started to change for teams. So the league started to change a lot earlier than before than you were saying. That's why I love this whole Jake Plummer thing, playing in the state, act like he was playing in the same era as John Elway in the 80s and 90s. Like, what? No, that's not true at all, Tim. That's not true at all.
Hold on. Hold a second. The year they won the Super Bowl, the Rams.
They won in 2000 or 99. 99, 2000. 99. Right? Because they won 99. I think they made the playoffs in 2000, and they made it back in 2001 against New England. So I think 99 is when they won the Super Bowl against the Titans. No, 99. I was in 4th grade, something like that. I don't know.
Over on the find this information.
What day you was in?
I was in 4th grade.
All right.
I remember that. Like, my house broke something. I got a spanking that night. It was bad. It was fucking bad.
That was the worst Super Bowl ever.
It was bad. It was bad. It was a memorable one too. It was a family heirloom I broke off the mantle. It was pretty bad.
Were you trying to find something for us, Tim, or?
Nah, I'm good.
Okay, all good. All right,
I'm good.
That was a good discussion, though, folks. I think we just get into the AFC North over-unders. All right, definitely. let's break this bad bitch open. We're doing the North today.
We're not done yet?
Oh, Kyle, you got to go to bed. We can let you go.
Man, come on with it. Let's go.
All right. So we're gonna start. We got the Ravens, Steelers, Browns, and Bengals. We're gonna put 3 questions each. You know how this works.
4 trash teams. Good.
Yeah, here we go. We're gonna break it right down. We'll get right into it for you, Kyle. We'll try to be fast too, because it is Friday. It's been a long week, and then we got Memorial Day weekend. So
it's actually Thursday, but I feel you.
I gotta work tomorrow too. All right.
It's Monday.
No 4-day weekend for Joshy. All right. First one. Lamar Jackson has 20.5 passing touchdowns. I'll start this off, then I'll let you boys continue the choral. I'm just going to say this. Last year, his attempts for rushes was 147. His pass attempts, 170. And I believe it will balance out a bit more with the pass attempts, but even projecting Lamar to 400 pass attempts for this year, I can't see him having past 15, 16 passing touchdowns while he's still going to accumulate some on the ground. He has a great trio of running backs that will do the same as well. I think this Ravens unit's going to be pretty, I think they'll be around the top 10 defensive unit in the ground and pound type. So with that trickery involved on the offense, I'm just going to have to say under for the passing. What you folks got for me?
I'll start off. Over under Lamar Jackson has 20.5 throwing TDs.
Correct.
I'm gonna say slightly over. I'm gonna say he gets about 22. And honestly, that's just me hoping Lamar Jackson is working on his craft and hoping he's working with John Harbaugh and hoping he's doing what he needs to do to get better. Obviously I'm not there at training camp with him with OTAs. I'm hearing that he is working with his receivers, and he's doing everything he can to be a better passer. So I'm gonna go ahead and just trust that Lamar Jackson. And I do like the weapons they have surrounded around him and getting Mark Ingram and obviously Hollywood Brown and Seth Roberts. So I think and still have a pretty good offensive line. I'm going to go ahead and say 20. I'm going to go ahead and say it's 22 touchdowns. I'm going to say over.
I'm taking the under on this one. For the same reasons Brian took over. I have to see that he's doing the work and going to use him and help him at the quarterback position and get better at that position. So I'm going to take the under for that reason.
Come on, Jason.
Oh, it's my turn.
I thought you were here, Dub.
I'm actually gonna say slightly over, and the reason I'm gonna say that is because they got Mark Ingram. They have a solid offensive line. I mean, when you have a solid offensive line, I mean you have the opportunity to kind of make some plays. And even though I'm not really confident in Marques Brown. I think even with that offensive line, I mean that's gonna help him out, kind of open things up. And I think he's gonna shock some people this year. He might. So I'm going to go slightly over. I'm going to say like 23 touchdowns. I give him. Kyle, you up next.
I am going to take the under here. I think he'll throw roughly around 17 or 18. I also think he's going to throw close to that many interceptions this season. I think that Lamar Jackson is going to hit a sophomore slump this year, and the Ravens may be 5-11 or 4-12, and having a new head coach next year.
Spoonie for the cleanup.
All right, I'm gonna pick under. Again, it's like 5 minutes early. We have to see what if he worked on his craft. I believe he will have over 20 in total between passing and rushing. That I'll believe. But I could see maybe about 18 touchdowns throwing, maybe 5 or 6 rushing, and that'll be it. That's about it.
I like it. All right. Yeah, it'll be an interesting year for Lamar. I really hope he can up it in the passing because he'll be a dynamic quarterback if he gets that shit down. Next question for the Ravens. 2 out of 3. Will the Ravens be top 10 defensive unit? For me, I'm going by points in this aspect. Points matter way more than yards. Always will. Ravens were number 9 in that aspect. In number 2016, have improved every year, seeing number 6 defense in 17 and the number 2 overall in points allowed for 2018. Now this one's tricky because they had some big boys leave on that defensive side. CJ Mosley, no more Suggsy, no more Zadarius Smith. That's huge because now you're dealing with that core of like Kenny Young, Shane Ray, Matt Judon. I don't know if I can really put too much faith. Like I did say they would be around that top 10 unit, but I think they fluctuate probably around 10 to 12. For this, I'm probably going to take the over. I think they'll be maybe 11, 12, honestly, with the points allowed this year.
I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the over, too. I don't think they're going to hit top 10 again, but I still think they're going to be pretty formidable. They lost the heart and soul of that defense, CJ Mosley. I mean, he was the heart and soul. I'm surprised they let him go. They did get another guy who can kind of replace that, maybe in Earl Thomas. So we'll see how Earl Thomas is, see where his health is at, and let's see if Earl Thomas can kind of revive whatever he had in Seattle or whatever he had left in Seattle before he gave him the bird off the cart. So I'm going to say slightly over, but I still think they could be pretty formidable.
It's a good call. I forgot about him over there already.
I agree. I think it's over as well. Again, for all the reasons you guys said. I mean, they lose Zadarius Smith, who is in his 4th year, 8.5 sacks. That's gone. C.J. Mosley, who in the last 4 years was ranked in the top 15 and the top 20 in total and solo tackles. Yeah, they get Earl Thomas back, but they get Earl Thomas in there, but you lose Eric Weddle, who's a valuable veteran, and Suggs, who was a kind of vocal veteran leader in that locker room. So they're going to have their struggles this year. I don't think they fall that far out of the top 10, but I could see them ranking anywhere between 12 and 14.
I'm going to take the over. I think this is a big deal. You get Earl Thomas in there. I think that's an upgraded free safety. However, you're losing a lot. Look, if you look at – I like Matt Judon out of Grand Valley State a lot. He's made some plays for him as a situational pass rusher. Let's see what he does as a full-time guy. You get Shane Ray. Shane Ray's kind of on a prove-it type deal because he was a former first-round pick himself. You're replacing Zadarius Smith and Terrell Suggs with Tim Williams from Alabama and Kenny Young. There's going to be a lot of growing pains in that front 7. They're going to need Earl Thomas to be that eraser in the secondary to kind of keep up. I just don't think they'll be able to do it in the long run.
I'm going to say over as well. It's because all the things you guys said. I mean, they got some pieces. They got some young talent, but they lost a lot of leadership. And Earl Thomas, even though he's kind of been, that was a good pickup. I'm worried about that injury and how that can affect him at the age of 31, 30, something like that. I'm wondering how is he going to be the same player he was before he got injured, and I'm just not sure about that. So I'm going to say under. Over. I'm sorry, over. I'm sick.
I'm going over. They lost a lot. They got older in the secondary. Brandon Carr in his late 30s. Tony Jefferson is a journeyman, nothing special there. Marlon Humphrey is probably the best guy they have in the secondary. They still got Jimmy Smith, but he's on his way out. I mean, if the rumors are true about Baltimore getting Jadeveon Clowney, as of today, if that was to come through, that can help out a lot. That 3-4 help out some for that front 7. But as of now, I'm going over. Sticking with it.
And finishing up the last one for the Ravens, we got Marques Hollywood Brown going to have 850 receiving yards. Now, Hollywood just saw over 1,000 yards in 17 with Mayfield and Kyler. He raised his receptions from 57 to 75 in 18 at Oklahoma. Got about 100 yards. So on the Ravens last year, the most targeted player with 100 targets was Crabtree. And he had 54 fucking receptions for 607. So the next highest was John Brown with 97 targets for only 42 catches. And he led the team with the 715 yards. Do you think a rookie going to a run-heavy offensive unit with a young quarterback working on his accuracy is going to come in and break everyone's receiving yards from last year? I personally highly doubt that. I'm going under for Hollywood.
I'm gonna go slightly under, but I'm not gonna go too under. I think he could break 800. 850 would be a lot. I think for the reasons because I think Hollywood Brown's gonna get a lot of yak, and I think he's gonna be a guy. He's an explosive receiver. That's pretty much how he got most of his yards at Oklahoma, with a lot of yak, a lot of bursts, a lot of bubble screens that are going to take hit. That he's gonna use his speed and use his agility and his quickness to get up the field. I think he's gonna come close, but I just don't think he's gonna hit 850. I'm gonna say around maybe 805, 810, and I think he's gonna have maybe 45, 50 catches. I think he's gonna have a lot of yak, in terms of because Lamar Jackson loves those underneath throws. He's gonna bail him out a lot, and I think Marques Brown is gonna do his thing when he gets the football.
I think this should have been the 850 should have been the amount of rushing yards over and under Lamar Jackson's going to have this year. I'm taking the under. I'm with Brian on this, slightly under in a offense that is going to be even more run centric than they were with Joe Flacco. And you think about the last time they had a receiver eclipse 800 yards or 850 yards, was 2017, I think, or 16, Mike Wallace. And that was with Joe Flacco at quarterback. Now you got Lamar Jackson. You're going to be a more RPO type of offense to begin with. Yeah, I don't see him getting over 850.
I see under. Let me talk about it from a football formational standpoint. If this team wants to run the ball, they're one of the few teams that has a fullback. So you figure you got 5 offensive linemen, you got a fullback, you got a running back. That's 7, quarterback's 8. You're going to have a tight end out there that's 9, 10, 11. Hollywood Brown, I think, is going to see most of his work initially as a slot receiver and then move to that Z position as well and kind of fluctuate. I think because of that, I think they're not going to be many times where they're running 3 and 4 receiver sets. So because of that, I don't think he's going to get as many snaps as needed to get downfield and throw those type of concepts. I think also if you look at what Lamar Jackson is good at, is it really throwing the ball down the field, and between, the seams and the cover 2? Probably not yet at least. So I don't think it's going to be there for him. I think, it's going to be a lot of slant and goes, a lot of, crossing routes, things like that. But this is a team that's going to want to run the ball, bring their fullback in, go 2 tight, maybe even 3 tight. So, no, I don't see it.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking under. And I want to touch on something anybody touched on. Marques Brown is, 5'9" and 166 pounds. I mean, he's a really light guy. And as far as Brian saying him being a yak guy, I really don't see that. I mean, I see him as being a guy that's going to EG Pro. And on top of that, too, I don't think they did enough to kind of take the pressure off of him as being the number 1 threat. I mean, you got Seth Roberts. I don't really think that's really he's not going to scare anybody. I mean, defenses are going to be focused on Marques Brown because they know he's a dangerous threat. And 2, you still got to take that Lamar Jackson in the question, is he developed as a passer? And I just think those things combined, I feel like that's not going to put him over 850 yards. So I'm definitely taking under.
I'm going with the under. I believe that guys like Hayden Hurst, the tight end, and Kenneth Dixon will be the 2 guys that will contribute more on the offensive side than Hollywood Brown. So I'm sticking with the under.
Wow, this is unanimous 2 times.
Yeah, not bad at all. We're going to get into the Steelers now. Second team out of the AFC North. And the first one for the Steelers is JuJu. He's going to have 10.5 receiving touchdowns. Now, the absence of Antonio Brown now puts him in the driver's seat of an offense where Brown had double-digit touchdowns every year since 2014, except for just 2017. But that's the year JuJu was drafted. So with AB out of the picture and Ben and his 600-plus pass attempts needing a new true number one, I'm easily going to put JuJu in that 12 to 13 touchdown bracket this year. I'm putting it over. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to go over too. He's had 7 the last 2 years. I think he's going to be force-fed. I won't go 2 over, though. I think he'll hit double digits. He'll probably get 10. Yeah, he's going to be, obviously, he's the guy now. James Washington's going to probably step up. Hopefully, he'll step up. The rookie we drafted, I forget his name. The rookie wide receiver we drafted late in the round. And then, obviously, Vance McDonald might get some looks at as well. And, obviously, we'll see what James Conner can do. But I think JuJu's obviously be the number 1 threat in that offense. I can see it over. I can see him getting about 10 touchdowns.
I'm going to take the under. It's going to be close, but I'm going to take the under. And here's why. He went from 78 targets his rookie season to like 160 targets.
Mm-hmm.
And he scored 7 touchdowns both seasons. Over 1,000, 1,400 yards and 111 receptions. And he couldn't score with the more opportunities that he was given. And now he's going to be the guy. He's going to be, listen, Antonio Brown was able to do what he did because he's a great receiver. Even if Ben forced him the ball, he'd get open. JuJu isn't Antonio Brown. So he may be close, but I don't see him getting over 10.
Here comes a hot take.
So
here comes a hot take from me. It's going to be under, and I also think that people seem to think that JuJu is kind of this next in the lineage, going from Mike Wallace to Emmanuel Sanders to AB. I think he's going to be a number 2 regardless. I think James Washington is the next one in the lineage here, or under.
I'm going to say over easily just because he's got a couple of things going for him. 1, he's got continuity in the scheme, and 2, he's got a great repertoire with Big Ben, and I think he's gonna get better each season. I mean, this is his 3rd season out this year. 3rd season. I think he's gonna get better. I mean, I think, and like Brian said, he's gonna get force-fed the football, just because of those things. So I'm gonna say over easily.
Spoonie, what you got? And then I think Brian probably wanted to debate something real quick on this.
Brian, don't look at me like that. I'm going to say over. Fellas, they have a statement to make. Everything that Antonio Brown said and did this whole offseason, Big Ben and JuJu have now got closer. They are the new Beavis and Butthead of Best Buzz. They are the Balky Bartakimans and Perfect Strangers. He was on Big Ben's boat ride, just chilling. They're going to not only force feed, they're going to send a message to AB and say, look at what we're doing. AB will be looking at every game, every football game, looking at his numbers compared to what JuJu does. And that's when you're going to see AB flip out again on Twitter on David Carr. I'm going over. I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised 15 to 18 touchdowns.
Oh, shit.
Fuck out of here. Stop.
Fantasy. Mark it down.
Look, so
that's a little too much energy.
Hot take.
Really quickly here.
My man Spoonie. Hot take.
The crazy thing is, I was gonna tell Spoonie, I was thinking about what he said about yesterday, but I think there is going to be a little bit of a game of chess being played between Oakland and Pittsburgh, between the receivers. And this could be a game that could be being played obviously indirectly between those two guys, chicken stats. I do agree with that. I had to think about that overnight, and I do agree. But then you said some shit like 18 touchdowns. Then I just sat back and said, you know what? Never mind.
First of all, two things.
Real quick, Kyle. I made a mistake. I meant to say under. I said 10 is 10.5. I didn't mean to say over. I apologize for that.
Real quick, two things. First of all, it's Derek Carr. Second of all, as far as this chess game, all Pittsburgh has to do is make the playoffs and be successful without AB. If AB's in Oakland going 4-12, they won. Juju doesn't have to blow up for them to win that.
Well, I don't know.
All I have to do is be better.
Tim made a point yesterday where AB is going to be stat checking a lot. And I do think AB's at a point in his career where, I mean, he wants to win, but I think he's at a point in his career where I think he's going to be doing that because I think he wants to prove a point that they need him. We need him. Regardless of what we do, he's going to try to prove that point. So I'm kind of leaning towards Tim on that standpoint. God. Hey, Jason, stop with the cereal.
Jason, come on, keep the same energy, bro.
Jason, why are you shaving? I told you to stop shaving your freezer and eating the ice chips. There's food in the house. We just went shopping last week, dude. All right.
We'll get to that next one right here.
What do we got next for the Steelers? We got Mr. James Conner, actually. James Conner, this one's interesting. Starts 10.5 games. That's starting 10.5 games for James Conner. It didn't take, or it didn't look like too much of a young gun with his style of play. He may have had some struggle games, but overall he finished with the 4.5 yards. That's about the average, and he amassed 1,470 yards from scrimmage. Can't really complain about that. I like Benny Snell coming out of Kentucky, but I really don't think he's going to be a huge threat to his starting position whatsoever. And I trust Connor's durability right now. He hasn't shown me anything to really trust otherwise, to say that he's fragile or anything. So I honestly believe we see Connor start more than 10.5 easily, over. Probably start all 16. Why not?
What's the number again? 10?
10.5.
I'm gonna go ahead and say under, just based off our depth at running back. I think we're gonna use Benny. I think we're gonna use Benny Snell a lot, and I think there's gonna be. I mean, honestly, it's gonna be who's got hot hand, right? You put the guy. Running back's all about who has the hot hand. You put the guy who has the hot hand in, you keep him in the game. And Benny Snell is a prototypical running back that we love in Pittsburgh. He's a ground and pound guy. He's a north and south guy. Not the most explosive guy. But I think we are going to, just based on what I've read, based on what I've seen, I think we're going to go veer towards more of that, especially since we lost AB. I think we're going to go back towards that whole pounding ground Pittsburgh Steelers old football. So we're going to see a lot of Benny Snell, more than people think in this offense. Despite where he was drafted, I believe he got him in the third. We're going to see a lot more than a lot more of the ground and pound Steeler football that we were used to seeing in the past. So I think I'm going to go ahead and say under. I think Benny Snell's going to get some starts. I'm not going to say we're not going to use James Conner. I think Connor's still going to be around. I think he's still going to be a guy we're going to use out of the backfield on third down situations. But I think Benny Snell is going to get his touches. I really do.
Hey, I think this is easy. Connor is going to be the starter. He's going to be the guy. He's definitely going to start more than 10 games. And Josh, like you said, he's probably going to start all 16, providing he doesn't get hurt. I do agree with Brian on this aspect, though. There's going to be a 1-2 combo that they're going to use, and Benny Snell will see a significant amount of time as the season progresses.
Over. That's it.
Yeah, this is easy. It's over. I mean,
there you go. Spoonie, you think there's competition in the backfield?
No, not at all. I do agree with Brian. Benny Snell will be used for what everybody's been talking about. But listen, James Conner, he's earned it. He's earned the big spot, especially being compared to Le'Veon Bell. He's a warrior for the past 3 years with Pittsburgh. So again, he will be the hot hand, but Benny Snell will be used the way Fogman and Brian said. He will be used, but Conner will start.
I agree. Yeah.
How is James Conner a warrior?
I don't think there's just any competition.
The reason why I say the warrior is because what he went through in college with his health.
Oh, okay.
And then fighting through that whole thing, his mentality coming as a Steeler, he's good. No question. He's one of my top players that I like in football in today's game. And I like the approach he took when he filled in for Le'Veon Bell. He was comparing, is he better than Le'Veon? Is Le'Veon, can he take over that role? And he did a great job last season, in my opinion.
Brian, you need to have a little bit more faith in James Conner, man. What is up?
Say again.
You need to have a little bit more faith in James Conner. Why you? What's with this doubt,
It's
man?
not
Why?
that's not that I'm
Energy.
Why is this doubt, man?
Energy
What would Corey and Brian Roberts say about you right now?
We need an energy check, Brian.
You got a great offensive line. Great offensive line.
I can believe in Kerryon Johnson. Why can't you believe in
Listen.
I like Kerryon Johnson. I think he's a
if you go look at post or past post about James Conner, you'll never see me say a bad thing about the guy. I've never said anything. Tim, stop. I've never said anything. I've never said he was trash. I've never said he was a bad running back. I never said he was ineffective. What my issue were people trying to compare him to the likes of a Le'Veon Bell, when that's just ridiculous to do. Because Le'Veon Bell was a one-of-a-kind running back. James Conner is not Le'Veon Bell. Despite what the numbers say, he's not Le'Veon Bell. That's just the
Brian, you
line.
said he looks like Devin Booker with a mullet, though.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. Devin Booker with a mullet is James Conner, baby.
I love James Conner.
Look, if James Conner comes out next year and explodes, I'm going to be a fan. I just did not like the fact that people were using him to put down Le'Veon Bell.
I agree with that.
I mean,
that's fair. But you know,
I will say this: I have more faith in James Conner than some of the Pittsburgh fans his first year starting last year.
Jason, you got to mute yourself with yourself. Teddy Graham.
I don't know about that. I think a lot of Pittsburgh fans
You're all good.
Keep the show moving,
a lot of Pittsburgh fans had a lot of
What's the
faith
next
in
one?
James Conner.
Come on,
I
Josh.
really do. He's a homegrown guy. He played in Pittsburgh, so yeah.
All right, let's get Brian's opinion on this one after. We got Devin Bush has 5.5 sacks. Now, I'm not sure Bush, we'll have to see what Brian says. I'm not sure he'll get the immediate starting role because he'll most likely share time with Vince Williams. He had 4.5 sacks in that position in 18. Didn't have a good 17. Or I'm sorry, he did have a good 17 with 8 sacks, but Bush specializes really, I think, at Michigan more in dropping and pass coverage and sticking with the speedy tight ends and wideouts. So I believe they utilize him more so in that skill set in the pass coverage than they will with blitz packages. I think they obviously will still use him in those, but I think he's I think he'll still have a solid rookie season without reaching the 5.5. I think I'll give him 4.5. So I'm going to give him the slight under on this one for his rookie year.
Josh, you took the words out of my mouth. I think we're going to use him a lot in pass coverage. I think he's a guy that can actually play that hybrid, safety / weak side linebacker position. I know he's supposed to take over. I know people want him to take over for Shazier, but I don't think he is quite Shazier when it comes to rushing the passer. But I don't think he's that natural or like that traditional linebacker that Shazier was. He's more of a hybrid guy, but I'm going to go ahead and say under. I actually was going to say 4.5 as well. So, but I still think he's going to have a pretty good not impactful rookie year. His presence is going to be he flies the sideline guy. I love the guy. Devin Bush is one of my favorite guys coming out the draft. So I think he's not going to have 5.5 sacks or more, but he's going to have an impactful rookie year.
Yeah, I'm taking the under. You had T.J. Watt with 13, Cam Hayward with 8. Jaron Hargrove with, I think, 6.5. Bud Dupree had 5.5. Realistically, the way they're going to use him, like Brian and Josh, you guys just said, I don't even think he gets 4, to be honest with you. I think you're going to see more of an impact on him as far as that sideline-to-sideline game against the run and against the short pass.
Nice.
Yeah, so let's get into this scheme breakdown. So we'll go under. Look, in their 3-4, their 2 middle linebackers projected right now are Mark Barron and former safety, and Devin Bush, who's kind of this hybrid safety. I think, and then you'll get Vince Williams in there as well. Yep. I think your pass rush is really going to come from T.J. Watt, Bud Dupree, Cameron Hayward, Stephon Tuitt. I think those are your pass rushers. I think those 2 in the middle are going to be more sliding around in coverage, covering those tight ends and running backs, and some slot receivers even. So I'm gonna go under. I think he may have more picks than sacks.
I am gonna say slightly over, actually, and one of the reasons I'm gonna say over is because the Pittsburgh Steelers, they love the blitz, and they're gonna allow this kid to go and make plays on the field. I mean, this kid play. He is a playmaker on that defense, and I don't know how many. I don't forget what was the number. How many times they blitzed last year? But I mean, it was a ridiculous amount of times they blitzed a lot. And this kid is just unbelievable. I mean, as a playmaker. So I'm going to say slightly over, maybe like 6.
Oh, damn.
Under. I think the sacks will belong to T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree, but he will have a lot of tackles. I think he'll lead the team in tackles. Defensive Rookie of the Year. One of my guys.
All right, good shit, fellas. We got 2 teams to clean up in the North now. We got the Browns and Bengals. Let's start off with the Browns. First one is going to be Baker Mayfield, has 4,200 passing yards. Simple math for me leads me to believe that he has the capability of getting over that. Last year's stats, he had 266 yards per game. All 16 games, if he does that, it's going to put him at 4,256. But he also dealt with Landry and Callaway both having a catch percentage of 54.4. That's fucking terrible, if we're being honest. With Odell coming over in a sense of an improved running game, fellas, I would imagine that it should raise the game of both Jarvis and Antonio, respectively, this year. They both need to step their shit up. I believe Baker throws for 4,300 around that area, so I'm taking the over on this one.
Oh, I'm taking the way over. Baker's he's gonna hit closer to 5,000. I'm telling you right now, and because he has a plethora.
Wow.
A plethora of wide receiver. Let's just go through this real quickly. Obviously, you know about Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. I don't think you guys really don't understand the talent Antonio Callaway. Antonio Callaway was a first-round talent. If it wasn't a knucklehead at Florida, he would have went in the first round. He's a first-round talented wide receiver. And then they pick up Jalen Strong, a former, I believe, went to Arizona State. I was really high on him when he came out of Arizona State. And then they have Rashard Higgins. And then obviously David Njoku at tight end. Okay, and then you have a guy who plays running back who should be wide receiver in Duke Johnson behind Nick Chubb. And then you have a guy like Kareem Hunt who can pass. He catches the ball at the back. Dude, Baker Mayfield isn't. I'm going to say he's going to throw closer to 4,700 yards next year. He's going to fly. I mean, and look, Baker Mayfield came from an Oklahoma offense where he slinged it all over the field. I can't imagine him not doing that this year with the plethora of talent at wide receiver and pass catches he has. So I'm going to say the way over 4,200.
Over. Real simple. Everything Brian just said is true.
Where's the yardage, Fox? Give me the yardage real quick.
I'm not gonna go 5,000.
I said close to 5,000. I said 47. I said about 4,700.
I think 4,500 would be legit right there.
Okay, all right. Just wanted a good sense.
Let's see. I'm going under. I'm going 4,000.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm definitely taking over, man. But I don't know if I'm going to go 5,000. I'm going to say 4,400. But, man, the weapons they have, my goodness, man. This team is going to be killing it on offense. So
it's going to be a whole lot of drop balls in Cleveland.
Kyle, they're going to have a lot of opportunities. That defense is going to give up a lot of points.
That's true.
That was my next point. Yep.
BWO, I am going over. I want to read you guys some numbers here. Drew Brees in 2011 had 5,476. He had a receiver, what was his name? Joe Horn that year. Okay, Peyton Manning with the Broncos, 5,477 yards in a season. He had guys like Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas. 2006, last season, Big Ben had 5,129 yards. AB, JuJu, Dwayne Washington. There's nobody in the NFL that has a better wide receiver group like the BWO Cleveland Browns, Odell, Jarvis, and Callaway, and I'll include the fucking tight end. I'm sorry. He's going to break it. I'm going 5,500 yards.
What?
That's Tim.
Numbers, baby. I'm telling you right now. Baker Mayfield.
You know, Big Ben had 675 pass attempts, right?
Okay.
That's a lot of fucking pass attempts.
All
right.
700 times.
5,500.
Who said 50?
Well, I left for 2 minutes. Who said 5,500 yards?
I want you guys to remember last season when Freddie Kitchen took over the game as a coordinator, when the guy then got fired.
Are they going to run the ball?
They're going to run the ball, but they're going to throw that ball more. They're going to keep Odell.
Tim, you said 5,500 yards?
Listen,
like
listen to me.
55?
Here's a warning. Do not argue with me. Then later on, when I call you out, don't hide from me.
All right, we're gonna save this for the end because we'll save this for the end. Let's get through this first, folks.
Hey,
let's get through this.
Let's finish,
first,
guys.
folks.
Let's finish.
Yeah, and then we also have a question from Maston. He's in our little chat. Got some good. He also left some good feedback on a couple of our first shows, fellas. So
don't hide from me.
Yeah, we gotta respond. We got more Bills Mafia invading the show. But the next question for the Browns over here is gonna be a combined one. It's Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. They're gonna combine for 160.5 receptions. There's too many mouths to feed on this offense. It's hard to fathom that Odell and Landry will both get their 81 and 80 or whatever the fuck you want to pair them with, while satisfying Njoku, Callaway, Duke Johnson, Higgins, Chubb, and Hunt when he comes back, and others in the passing game. A good coach will hopefully utilize all his pieces. Freddie Kitchens looking at your ass, rather than exhausting a tandem. I believe they combine for about 130. I'm taking the under, clearly.
I'm gonna go ahead and take the under too. I think 160 is a lot, and it's either both of them are going to get 80 plus, and I don't see that necessarily happening, or Odell gets 100 catches or Jarvis gets 100 catches, and one gets I don't really see that happening. There's so many mouths to feed on that offense. We all just alluded to it during Baker Mayfield's. I'm gonna say under. I'm gonna say about maybe. I'm gonna say around what you said. I'm gonna say about 135, 140 for both of them.
I'm gonna say I'm taking the under, but it's gonna be very, very close. You gotta understand.
Get out of here, Fogs.
He threw it. Listen, it's going to be close because I think they're going to throw the ball more than they did last season. The one thing I hate agreeing with Tim, but God, the one thing I might agree with here is that they are going to throw the ball more. When you think about it, Landry had 81 receptions last season. The second closest guy to him was Njoku with 56. And they're going to force the ball. Baker will get that ball to Odell. It's going to be close. I could see them getting like 150, 155.
Over. Next.
Damn, Kyle. I feel we need a bet on this one. You're opening up some angry sharks in my head right now.
I gotta agree with Fog, man. Damn it. I'm gonna go slightly under. And I agree with what Fogman said. I think Odell is gonna get the ball thrown to him a lot because of how good he is, and that's gonna open things up for the other people. So I'm gonna say slightly under. I'm gonna say about 145-ish, roughly. So under.
You know what's funny? They laugh at me when I said 5,500.
Stop talking to your imaginary friends and answer the question.
now they go over 160. So now they're gonna agree with me. They're gonna throw that ball more and let's run. Of course, it's gonna be over. I'm telling you, we have the best receiver in football. Odell Beckham fucking Jr. is the best wide receiver in football. Don't interrupt me when you're on the field.
No one's saying anything.
The whole defense freezes. The game plan is where Odell is lining up. Everybody's going to get open. So here's the thing. Odell will be fed. He will be satisfied. The same with Jarvis Landry and others. I'm telling you right now, 5,500 is in the books. Over 160 combined receptions is in the books.
Antonio Callaway is going to ruin this. I'm telling you right now.
He's smoking pot right now in the hotel.
The marijuana about to get pulled too. He'll be smoking weed. Yeah,
the last one for the Browns we got is Myles Garrett has 14.5 sacks. Woo! Now I did a little research on this, fellas. Players tend to have a little regression in sacks after like a 13.5, 14 sack season. Examples of that would be Terrell Suggs, Cameron Wake, Lamar Woodley, Jason Taylor, Von Miller, Clay Matthews, Ryan Kerrigan, Dwight Freeney, Carlos Dunlap. There's a few more I could go over, but there's a few players that have capitalized even higher in the sack department the following year. but it's damn difficult. And I'm talking like you got to be Reggie White, JJ Watt type status. So I think Garrett has a very good year, but I think he gets around the 11, 12 sacks for the big guy. It's hard to fucking capitalize past that. So going under for Myles Garrett.
Well, I mean, just based on that data that you gave us, Josh, it would be hard for me to disagree. But I've always thought Myles Garrett was a dog, man. I've always loved his motor. Coming out of Texas A&M a couple of years ago, I'm gonna say slightly over. I think it's one more sack. I'm gonna say 14. I know he had maybe half a sack. I think he had 13.5 last year. So I'm gonna go ahead and almost push. I'm gonna go ahead and say 14 sacks. I think he has another monster year. He's a phenomenal pass rusher.
I want to push this. I really do. I'm going to say slightly under, but I wouldn't be shocked if he did go over because, again, like I said, this was a bottom third defense last season. There isn't much improvement there, so he's going to have a hell of a lot of opportunities to get to the quarterback.
Here comes a hot take right here. I'm not only going to say over, I'm going to say Myles Garrett is your 2019-2020 NFL Defensive Player.
Fuck out of here.
DPOI?
Yes, between the sacks, and I think he's going to have a lot of stops behind the line to put him in that conversation.
I mean, it could be his breakout. It's his third year, so it's his third year. So
who's he lined up next to?
Hold on, yeah, that's a good question.
Danny Shelton or some shit?
It should be Bradley Chubb.
Let me answer that.
I know Vernon is not on the other side.
Hey, let Jason go.
I'm sorry, Jason. I'm sorry.
Let Jason go.
I'm glad you asked that question. I'm going to agree with Kyle, even though he's a hater for Devin Funches. I'm going to say he's going to get 15, 16 sacks a year because of who he has on that front four. They bring in Oliver Vernon. They have Sheldon Richardson, who's a very, very solid defensive tackle. And don't sleep on this guy, Larry Ogunjobi, whatever his name is. That front four is very, very solid. Very, very solid. Now, I think that's going to, alleviate some pressure off of Myles Garrett where he can do some damage. So I kind of agree.
Wait. Even better.
Ogunjobi already. He was decent.
Or solid.
But Tim's got to go before we get into this real quick, fellas. Hold on, Spoonie. Clear it up, and then we'll Ogunjobi this shit up.
It's over. It's like Jason just said.
Damn, Tim.
Energy check.
BWO, man.
There was two seasons ago. People was posting PFF, Olivia Vernon, top 5, and pressure. Now you're playing against one of the best defensive ends in football on the other side, with Sheldon Richardson, who's no longer playing 3-4 defense. Now he won't have no more double teams; all be single. He's on top of that. Does anybody mention who the defensive coordinator is? The guy who had the Arizona Cardinals in that top 10 range in defense, Steve Wilkes.
Oh, the guy got fired after a season. Yeah.
Oh, as the head coach. That was bad. You know how they do it. You know how they do it.
Some people are just born to be DCs.
Top defensive coordinator, you the head coach for 1 year. Bad team, you get fired. Listen, Myles Garrett, I'm gonna give him the sack record. Michael Strahan's sack record, 22.
Oh no.
Fuck out of here.
22.
That's so hard.
What I was gonna make was that
Them hot takes are legendary, man.
22. I think 22.5 would be the record, to be honest with you.
This one, here's the thing. Myles Garrett will earn the 22.5. He won't be a slide into.
Like you're putting him in JJ Watt territory. JJ Watt's biggest sack. JJ Watt had 20.5 sacks twice in his career. Okay, so you're talking about
the point I want to make about the Browns is that
not JJ Watt.
It's not just their front four. If you look at their back four is very good as well, which will help them.
And this is why the North has been amping up their left tackles, like the Bengals with Cordy Glenn, the Ravens with what the fuck is his name? He was just on the tip of my tongue. Ronnie Stanley, the first one in 2016 in the first round. They know they're lining up against Myles Garrett. That's why they're beefing up the left side of their lines. That's crazy, Tim. That's a hot fucking take right there.
Their back four is very good, which is going to help them.
It's pretend on paper it's good.
I do like Richardson. I do like Vernon.
Yeah,
I do like Larry. And that's it's
You know.
22 and a half though, Tim. Damn, Tim.
Tim
Damn.
Tim's hot takes are legendary.
You're
man.
making me want to put up like a pizza bet over here, like I'm Chris Green.
Hey, Tim,
Pizza
you want?
bet.
I'll take that bet. I'll take that bet, Tim.
They're gonna be that good.
Tim, I'll take that bet. I'll take that bet.
Wait, why you always want to?
Let's go to the next one. All right.
All right. We'll talk about it.
All right, we'll finish this up with the Bengals. We got here we go. We got 3 Bengals to finish up, and then we'll finish out with this shit strong. First one for the Bengals is Andy Dalton has 23 and a half passing touchdowns. That's funny because that's actually the average of his 8 years combined. Outside of AJ Green and Eifert, who have difficulty playing complete seasons, I don't trust a lot of his receiving weapons. This most likely be a season where Dalton relies more on the running back tandems that succeed in Cincy rather than a pass-heavy attack. So Dalton, if anything, probably sees a high of 23 touchdowns this season, falling just short. So I'm going under, just short of his projected career average.
23. I'm actually, you know what? I'm gonna say over. Because I think Zach Taylor is going to be. I said this. I think I said this yesterday off the air. I think Zach Taylor is going to be in the ear of Andy Dalton. I think he's going to. I think he's going to at least help Andy Dalton become not necessarily a better passer, but just see things better. Zach Taylor is a pretty good quarterback coach, former quarterback at Nebraska. Look what he did for Jared Goff. You know, when he was in St. Louis or Los Angeles, where the hell they are. I think, and then I think and AJ Green and Boyd to the other side and Eifert, I think that's enough talent. And along with Joe Mixon in the backfield, which we're going to get to a little bit later, I think this is going to be, I don't want to say a breakout year for Andy Dalton, but I think it's going to be one of his more efficient years. And I think with efficiency, he's going to become more touchdowns. So I'm going to say over about 25, 26 with less picks.
I'm taking the over as well. I'd say about 27, 28. You got to remember, before he got hurt last season, and they were becoming more run-oriented with Joe Mixon there. Unfortunately, injuries was hurting him as well. But before he got hurt, he was on pace to throw 30 touchdowns last season. And I don't, for all the reasons Brian just stated, especially with the addition and now Zach Taylor being the head coach, I in all honesty, I could see him easily getting to that 27-30 mark again this year.
I'm going to go over for the simple reason I think Zach Taylor's in his ear saying, hey, Andy, this is the last year contract. If you don't pull it together, you're going to be holding a clipboard for a rookie next season.
Mr.
Oh, he goes somewhere else. Mr. Finley.
Yeah. Cal just took my answer. I think I'm gonna go over as well because I think, like you said, this is his last year of his contract, and he's gonna be playing. He's gonna have a great season just because of that reason alone. So I'm gonna take over.
Playing for another job.
I am going. As of now, I'm going over. I think they're gonna trade AJ Green. Depending on how their record starts, I think he will request a trade. The team that they're talking about is the New Orleans Saints. But as of now, I'll say over. I think with AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, the kid Josh Malone, they're liking a lot, and the rookie tight end June Sample, who AJ Green was really talking about. I think Andy has enough weapons to hit over 30, hit about 30, 31.
All right, so second one before we get to the last for the Bengals is Joe Mixon has 1,550 yards from scrimmage. I believe he should absolutely crush this total because the Bengals have tried to focus a bit on the offensive line and will be the main dog now in Cincy. He's only started 7 games in 17, 13 last year. So just having the 14, 15 games started this season and being such a reliable pass catcher out of the backfield, he has a career catch percentage of 82. It's pretty damn reliable, and he'll be utilized heavy in the rushing and passing attack. So he'll become Dalton's best friend this year. I'm taking the over on this.
I'm taking the over in this one too. I think Joe Mixon is probably going to live up to his billing of being the best back. I think, Steve, I'm not sure you said this, but
yeah, Fogg did.
I think Fogg did say Joe Mixon was the best back coming out of 2017 draft. I still think it's Leonard Fournette. I don't give a shit what you say, Fogg. I still think Leonard Fournette is still a generational back. But hey, Joe Mixon to come out of Oklahoma. I mean, if it wasn't for what he did his freshman year before he even stepped on campus, which is ridiculous. If it wasn't for that incident, Joe Mixon would have been a first-round talent. He's unbelievable. They compare him to Le'Veon Bell. I love the way he plays. he's going to crush this. I'd say he's going to get up not well over 1,500. I'm going to say about 1610.
Oh, I'm taking the over as well, and I'll say it's going to be well over 1,500. He had 1,464 last season. He played 13 games. He was averaging over 105 or 104 yards per game in total yards from scrimmage. It's only going to get better. I'm telling you, Cincinnati may actually. Hot take: Cincinnati might mess around and win that division accidentally.
Damn, it took my hot take. I was gonna say that at the end too. I was gonna say that at the end. They're playing with house money right now, Cincinnati.
I'm gonna go over as well. Like Farbe said, like he was close to getting to that number before he got injured. He played 14 games, not 13 games last year. And they also improved their offensive line. I also think the Bengals might have a good offense as well. They might be top 5 this year. So I'm definitely going to take over, and he's going to be a big reason for that.
All right, Spoonie, go ahead. Kyle had to step away, but Kyle did say he's taking the over for Mixon on this one.
Well, we look at the Bengals offense under Zach Taylor. We have to look at, okay, what did the Rams do? And I look at, well, Todd Gurley and his best year in 2017, he had basically over 1,300 yards rushing and close to 800 yards receiving. I think Joe Mixon is a better running back than Todd Gurley overall that could even get better numbers than that. So I'm going with the over.
All right, good shit, fellas. We got one last one then for the Bengals to clear it up for the night, and then we actually have a fan-requested question, which is pretty interesting. So the last one for the Bengals, though, is Geno Atkins has 9.5 sacks. Atkins, he's been quietly a solid defensive tackle for the Bengals his whole damn career. Not counting his rookie year where he only started one game. He's averaged 8.5 sacks every season since 2011. What sucks is that he's never had a repeat double-digit sack season, with only 3 of them coming in 2012, 2015, and 2018. While he'll remain a solid starter in his 9th year, I can see 7 to 9 range for Atkins, but I'm taking the under for him for this year.
Where's Geno coming into his
9th
year, I
season?
believe?
Yep.
Season. Yeah. And Geno's quietly building a Hall of Fame resume. 7-time Pro Bowl. I'm gonna go ahead and say under 2. He had 10 sacks last year. I'm gonna say under. I just think that he's getting up there in age, and he's gonna find, as usual, he's gonna look at a lot of double teams, and for that reason, I'm gonna say not too much under. I'm gonna say about 8, 9. I don't think he gets double digits again. He's never had a back-to-back double-digit sack season. So he had his double-digit season last year, so I think he goes back to single digits. So I'm gonna go ahead and say 9.
So I'm going to take the under as well. I wanted to take the over big time because in the last 4 years, he's had 2 seasons with 9 sacks, a season with 10, and a season with 11.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I'm taking the under is because there's only one Hall of Fame defensive tackle that I could think of in recent memory that was able to just pile up at the defensive tackle position double-digit sacks year after year, and that's John Randall. Geno Atkins, like Brian said, he's putting together a Hall of Fame career. This is going to be one of those that are going to be close in my opinion, but I'm going to have to take the under. I think 8 or 9 sacks is what he'll wind up with.
I'm actually gonna say slightly under. I'm gonna say he might get the same. He might actually get the same sacks he had last season. I wanted the Bengals draft. I wanted them to get another good defensive and like good pass rusher. I like Pernell Rand, but I don't think they did enough defensively on the front to kind of take some of that pressure off of Geno Atkins. But he's a hell of a player, so I'm gonna take under, but I might take slightly under, maybe 10 sacks. So,
Spoonie cleaned this up. Looks like Kyle's going to take the under for Geno Atkins on this as well.
Yeah, I'm going under because I believe that the Sam Hubbard, who was the number 2 in sacks, I believe he had 6 last season. I think he will lead the defense in sacks this year, and I think Geno will give him like 5 or 6.
All right, boys. Now, we do have a question that was posed by somebody in our chat, Maston Park. He actually asked us, I thought it was a good question. He asked, who's going to have more rushing yards? This was during the Steelers segment. More rushing yards this season. Is it going to be James Conner or Le'Veon Bell?
I think it's good. Man, I think it's going to be James. I think it. Well, damn.
You want me to go, Brian? I'll answer.
I'll go Le'Veon Bell for the simple fact that I think they're gonna feed him the rock a lot, and because they're gonna want to take some pressure off Sam Darnold. They have the young quarterback. I don't think they're gonna want to throw him. I don't think they're gonna want him to throw the ball 40, 50 times a game. And especially when they have a back like Le'Veon Bell back there who's getting up there in age, so you might as well use him while you have him. So I think Le'Veon Bell is going to be used, and he has something to prove as well. Not behind the greatest line. I think his yards per carry are going to be shit. But I think Le'Veon's going to have. I think Le'Veon's going to have more rushing yards because I think, like we said, he alluded to in the segment with James Conner. Like I said, I think him and Benny Snell are going to be tag team. It's going to be a combo. I don't think Conner's going to get the bulk of the carries.
Yeah.
I'm going to say James Conner just for the simple fact that the Steelers have continuity and they have a better offensive line than the Jets. I mean, the Jets, yes, they have Le'Veon Bell, but Le'Veon Bell can't do – there's only much a running back can do if your offensive line is not that good. And I mean, he's a good player, but you still have to have guys block up front to create holes for him to run through. And I think James Conner has that benefit going from him right now. So I'm going to say James Conner.
I'm taking James Conner as well. Le'Veon Bell's running style with that crappy Jets offensive line is actually going to hurt him.
Offensive line. Robbie Anderson, Quincy Anu, Josh Bellamy, Hendon Christopher the Fourth. Nah, I'm sorry. There's no wide receiver on that roster that will help Le'Veon Bell like the way Antonio Brown, JuJu did. So I'm giving it James Conner. He will be the man again. And I want to put out there, I am not a Browns fan.
Yes, you are. You know, I was gonna say this. You realize you said we the whole freaking time during the Browns segment. You said we have this, we have that. But you know what? I'm good.
It's a figure of speech. I am a listen. Cowboys.
Tim's already sending Freddie Kitchens letters. Please stop harping on Odell. He's very good.
He's the best. He's the best receiver in the game. You gotta give it to him.
He's not the best receiver.
He doesn't care about pajama practice, Freddie.
Who's better than him?
DeAndre Hopkins.
I give you it. I'm sorry. He's the second best receiver in the game.
Julio Jones.
No, not Julio. No.
Man, I think so.
Not Julio. Listen,
Antonio Brown is still better than Odell Beckham Jr.
He's not better than Odell.
Odell's never available.
No. Odell Beckham Jr. will be used differently than the way the Giants use them. I'm telling you right now.
Odell's never had a good quarterback, you guys.
If Odell is available.
Fuck off.
If he's available.
Fuck your Memorial Day weekend. I hope everything burns.
Listen, I got $100 bet. Odell better not fuck around, man. I need the Browns to win that division against the Steelers fans. I don't like you Steelers fans. I don't like y'all. I really don't. I respect you, but I don't like
RD Smith has to chime in too. Tim is the typical Dallas fan jumping on whatever other bandwagon that shows up. But hey, Browns World Order, though. Browns World Order is a real thing. If you guys want to come on board,
we got shirts.
We got spots on the wagon. It's getting nice and comfy up here.
I got to say there's a matter.
Free hay rides this weekend.
Here's the thing. Browns BWO, we have our favorite teams. Like Jason, he likes the Colts. I'm a Cowboy fan. But Browns supporter. I have shirts because you know what? I'm going to get some shirts out.
I'm not hopping on the wagon, though, Tim, because I have to justify the Odell trade was the right fucking thing. So I hope Odell stubs his toe. I hope he punches more holes in walls. I hope he punches more nets. I hope he misses more pajama practices.
The Odell trade was huge.
Wasn't Josh originally a member of BWO? Wasn't he a member? I thought he was before Josh.
Last year I was, but now that Odell's part of the Browns. Listen. No.
Oh, God.
Stop
Oh.
it. No, because y'all want to shit on Dave Gettleman.
Oh.
That's my man's man's, dog. No one shits on Dave Gettleman, dog.
You also
That's my
gotta get
man's.
But you know something, Tim. But you know something. I think Brian might secretly be wanting to be a part of BWO too, man.
But-
With
but
the
listen,
predictions,
here's the thing.
the wins.
Listen, I love
Okay, so I've been
love-
saying the Browns will win the division, but I'm saying that because of what's around them and the expectation that if they don't, it will be one of the biggest busts of all time.
Oh wow!
No, what?
No, come on. Last night it was the Steelers and Ravens to lose.
I thought it was the Ravens is gonna take the
Can y'all
division.
hold on. Can y'all hold on one
That's
It's
second?
gonna be a tight race.
Did I say the Ravens?
One second.
It's gonna be a tight race. It's gonna be like me and Todd agreed. It's gonna be the 3-1
No,
separating.
I agree. It's
1
going to
through
be
3.
Steelers, Ravens, and Browns. The Browns should win the division. There's no reason why they should not.
Wait a minute, it's
There's
gonna
no
be the
reason.
it's gonna be. Didn't Brian say the Steelers gonna be like 7-9?
I said that. I did say that.
You guys know automatically right now,
tight?
but the Browns are just posed. They're just poised to fail because it's like every time we give these championship like teams
They're
on paper,
going-
like the Dream Team with the Eagles. Remember that season? I
Oh,
know
you fucking
Bogner does.
traditionalists kill
The
me.
fucking Dream
Ugh.
Team. All those free
I don't
didn't
even know where they got
You
this.
fucking
Namdi
traditionalists kill
Asamoah
me.
and all them.
And
Oh,
Vince
hold
Young.
it up, Tim. Hold it up.
Tim.
Hold it up.
Oh, Tim,
Oh.
what is this?
Oh, I want my shirt, Tim.
Oh
come
man,
on,
look at
I
that.
want my shirt, Tim.
I'm done.
Tim is muted trying to
How much
explain
are you?
BWO.
Tim, you're muted. You're
Tim,
finished.
it might be better that way, you guys. Let's
It is.
Tim, we hear everything you're saying right now. We agree.
Yeah, we really hear it, Tim. Thank you for muting him, because
All right, while
He did
Tim
that on
rambles
purpose.
to the screen, we're
Okay,
I didn't do that on
BWO.
purpose.
We have our own favorite teams, but because we all do not
come
like
on, mute him again.
the Steelers, and we are happy
Oh,
that finally a team in the AFC North is about to overthrow the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mute him.
Hey, hold on. Time out.
BWO.
I have no problem.
Support Stephen Fogmeg and myself with the first two that came out and said,
You know,
Odell
Jason's a
Beckham
BWO fan. Jason's a BWO fan, but he only hasn't won in 10 games.
listen. No, but
10 games is good enough for them to win the division, right?
win the division.
They just got to get to the playoffs.
Jason is
They get to the
preparing-
playoffs.
He's preparing for a soft fall. That's what he
A
does.
soft 10-6 is a soft
That's
fall
what
for
Ja-
the Browns.
no.
To go to the
Jason-
playoffs.
Jason
That's
has
a
no
soft fall.
He had- if you- as much